Hubhopper Originals.
To start your podcast for free, log on to studio.hubhopper.com.
The answer is really start wherever you can and start whenever you can. And, the best time was 20 years ago and the second best time is right here, right now. I love that Chinese proverb.
Yeah.
And, you can do whatever fits your boat. Whether you want to start composting your food waste, you can help divert 60% of your waste from ever entering the oceans and landfills by just composting. Or if you want to segregate, or you want to organize a tree planting session in your neighborhood. Perhaps you want to start carrying your own, tote bag to the grocery store. Maybe you want to start growing your own herbs. The idea is to just basically, for me, sustainability means it's a lifestyle. Like anything else, it's a way of living. And it's basically an idea where you don't take more from this Mother Earth than you actually put back.
Hello and welcome to the Success with Savita podcast, where we share hot tips on how to do life and business without losing your mind. I'm your host, Savita Nanjappa, entrepreneur, high-achieving 9-to-5er turned transformational success coach, helping you create a wildly successful business. Come hang out with me and other fabulous humans like you every week for stories and chats packed with a healthy dose of tips, resources, how-tos, and real talk. Side effects may include a happier and more confident you with each passing day. Hi, and welcome to the Success with Savita podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. And I would like to take a moment to introduce my guest for today's episode, Sahar Mansoor. Sahar Mansoor is the founder and CEO of Bare Necessities, a zero-waste social enterprise. She is a circular economy nerd, a voracious learner, and a curious traveler. Sahar is co-author of Bare Necessities, How to Lead a Zero-Waste Life, published by Penguin Random House. Sahar has obtained accredited degrees on environmental topics in India, the USA, and England, becoming a University of Cambridge alumni. Her business offers zero-waste personal care, lifestyle, home care, and educational products and services, including online sustainability courses called Zero Waste in 30 and Sustainability in 30. She has also volunteered in Guatemala, Jamaica, and the Democratic Republic of Congo for humanitarian projects. Her time working at the World Health Organization in Geneva and SELCO Foundation on implementing decentralized renewable energy projects in rural Karnataka enabled her to build Bare Necessities from the ground up. Her work has been recognized by Google India, Jazeera, NDTV, Vogue, Elle, Femina, and India Today, among others. Sahar has a 500-gram jar of waste that she brings to sustainability workshops she conducts, which is all the waste she has produced in the last 5 years. And that is remarkable. Join me as I talk to Sahar, not just on how she began her sustainability business, which is Bare Necessities, but also her journey so far and her tips for all of us to begin to do our own bit for the planet. Hi, and welcome to the Success with Savita podcast. Sahar, thank you so much for joining me this evening. I'm really looking forward to this conversation because I think I have a lot to learn about zero waste, sustainability, and all of that. But I think it's great to have an inspirational guest like you on our podcast. So thank you for your time. And I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Savita, it's my pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for thinking of me. And I can't wait to kind of continue to have this conversation.
Yeah. So diving right in, because your work it's so diverse, not only diverse, but it is inspiring. So tell me about your journey so far and how you came to start Bare Necessities.
Yeah, sure thing, Savita. So honestly, growing up, I think I've been an environmentalist since I was like a 3-year-old. I spent every weekend in Cubban Park. Family holidays meant, jumping into waterfalls, climbing trees, falling off of trees. I have 2 older sisters. My dad was extremely passionate about nature. But I think it was only when I was in college, I went to a small liberal arts school in Los Angeles, where I actively kind of started to identify myself as an environmentalist. And I took all these environmental courses that really kind of just changed the direction of my life in so many ways. And I really started to kind of examine, especially the waste issue from an environmental lens. I remember very specifically kind of watching this short documentary of this lady named Bea Johnson, who is, living this zero waste lifestyle. And I was like, that is amazing, but also thought, You know what? I could never do that. I am a college student. I have a couple of jobs on campus. I have a scholarship to maintain. I can't possibly shop at all of those expensive whole food kind of stores that, Bia is shopping at. Uh,
Mm,
but I remember this course kind of just being so instrumental and kind of just imprinted in my mind that I kind of very confidently hopped into my dean's office and I said, Dean Saleza, you don't have the major I want here at LMU. And he said, what do you mean? We have over 500 majors here.
mm-hmm,
And, you know, I said, yeah, but I want to take environmental science in the science department, and I want to take environmental policy in the political science department, and I want to take that surfing science class. So he just kind of looked at me, smiled, and said, all right, grab a piece of paper and pen. And we highlighted every course that was offered in my university that had basically anything to do with the environment.
mm-hmm,
And I think I was just so fortunate to be in that environment that was so willing to teach me and so happy to nurture me in any direction I basically possibly chose. But I must admit, I was looking at things from a very kind of elitist academic
mm,
perspective. Uh,
mm,
I wanted to be a PhD. I wanted to be an environmental professor. I then moved on to University of Cambridge to pursue my higher studies after my undergrad. Was on this again PhD track,
mm-hmm.
and suddenly, didn't get this full ride scholarship. I didn't get the Gates Cambridge to continue my PhD at Cambridge.
Okay.
Um, so for the first time, I had this time to kind of just think a little bit about what I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I had this amazing opportunity to work at the World Health Organization in Geneva.
Okay.
I hopped onto that track and I said, okay, let's explore things. Honestly, it was great to be in an environment where I didn't know everything. And, I kind of pride myself on knowing so many things about the environment. But it was so nice, so challenging to be in this environment that I started to learn things from an health perspective that actually also have a huge impact on the environment and our health. And that intersection was really interesting. Um, but also being there amidst the Ebola outbreak was another kind of something that taught me a lot
Mm,
about kind of how quickly and swiftly countries kind of act on health
yeah.
versus climate action was something that really kind of stood out to me very specifically in that era of my life. But again, fast forward a few years, I moved back home to Bangalore. I started working at this social solar energy enterprise. So we were basically solarizing public health centers and hospitals, basically any kind of energy need that needed to be filled.
Mm-hmm.
And while I was working with this community, I worked with a waste picker community.
Mm-hmm.
And that, the inequality was just so stark. Um, this fancy Bangalore International Airport is glossy and beautiful in this IT city, and just not far away from them is this community that is living in very humble homes, blue top kind of plastic
Mm, yeah.
houses, no citizenship rights, no access to food, no access to lighting. And for me, this really kind of helped me to put aside my elitist academic perspective and just really look at waste from a human lens, from a social
Mm-hmm.
justice issue. And I remember just kind of thinking back to that crazy video I watched when I was, a sophomore in college, and said, you know what, I'm going to try that very crazy zero waste lifestyle. And
Mm,
that is how I got started on my zero waste journey. It was for very personal reasons. Other than my mom and perhaps sisters, no one really knew what I was doing and why. And I had a very personal blog also that was called The Eco Minimalist back in 2015.
okay.
And slowly I noticed that I think perhaps there are others who are also looking to consume more mindfully. And,
Mm.
maybe this is a gap in the ecosystem that I can fill beyond just this personal level of living this low impact lifestyle. And that led me to start Bare Necessities.
Wow. I was researching this before we started this interview, like last couple of days. And I was like, why is it two people have such two different reactions? Like you wanted to do this, you actually did it. But otherwise, I'm asking myself, how is it that this didn't occur to me? Because I'm talking about business and I haven't actually really worked with businesses which are focusing on the environment, climate change, sustainability. And I feel like that's a goal that even I have taken on just from wanting to reach out to you and do this conversation. Because I think what you're doing is very different. A lot of people reach out and say, I want to build social impact, but the work that you're doing is actually impact. And with that, I do want to ask you, when you started Bare Necessities, the reason behind the name is not Jungle Book, is it?
It's definitely inspired by Jungle Book. Have lots of fond memories of my sisters and I dancing around the house to Jungle Book.
Okay.
But it also really just depicts how I feel about
Mm,
the brand and the ethos so well. Because it really makes us all pause and ask us what are truly our barest necessities, and what
yeah.
really makes us happy, and what do we really need.
Yeah, and Cubbon Park, yes, I still go. And I think I've rediscovered Cubbon Park once I had a kid. So thank you for sharing your journey so far. And with that, I do want to ask you, like you, I feel, maybe I'm wrong, and I probably need to spend more time, learning more about the work. But I feel like you're one of the early pioneers when it comes to zero waste and sustainability, at least in Bangalore. Like I recall reading in here about you way back before pre-pandemic. I'm talking about 2017, 2018. So what are some changes that you see now that is different from when you started?
Yeah, that's a great question. Um, I think when I started in 2015, um, this wasn't an Instagram phenomenon it is now.
Yes,
It wasn't cool, it wasn't sexy, it wasn't like the in thing to do. And perhaps people even thought I was a little crazy. Some people were like, why did you kind of leave a cushy WHO kind of
for sure, for
life to
sure.
kind of work in the ecosystem of kachra? That was
Hmm.
kind of the responses I was getting when I moved back home. Um, and I think that's, calling me a pioneer, that's really generous of you. Um,
No, but you are. You're the only one person that I've heard of. Like I said, maybe I need to upgrade, but you were.
no,
So,
definitely. It was, even when I entered this space, I thought that the whole zero waste rhetoric was really dominated by this white girl kind of rhetoric,
mm,
which really didn't appeal to me. And I thought, might not appeal to this Indian diaspora. And
yeah.
also because of the irony of kind of decolonizing that narrative,
Mm,
because it is something that we have been doing for generations. This is what my nanny used to kind of wash her hair and clothes. And the Indian stainless steel tiffin is like this 18th century Indian invention, which
mhm.
has now kind of become the poster child of the zero waste movement in Brooklyn. I mean, it was just kind of absurd that there was a lack of Asian voices in that whole arena, which is, and we are basically talking about going back to our bazaars, we're talking about bulk stores. In a lot of ways, it was something that was so accessible and so easily found here in India.
Mm,
I think that's why I even wrote the book with Ben
yeah.
said, How to Lead a Zero Waste Life. It's everything I wish I knew in 2015.
Mm-hmm.
It's got all of my failures, it's got all of the failed experiments in my mom's kitchen, the lessons I learned along the way, and kind of why I felt that we needed to create an Indian book written by an Indian for the Indian
Yeah.
audience.
Yeah. And
Um,
yeah. And do you feel there's been a change since when you started to now? Are more people more at least aware and there's some action on the ground?
Absolutely, Savita. I think more and more people are aware about kind of why our waste footprint matters, what we can do on an individual level, whether that is composting, whether that's segregating our waste, whether it's just even having those conversations around sustainability and what we can do, and how we kind of consume, how we ask brands questions. I think the social media kind of era has also really speared that,
Mm,
kind of made that information very easy, very accessible, and also made it okay to ask questions. Um,
yeah.
so I think definitely it's a whole another ball game now in 2021 versus when I was starting in 2015.
Yeah, I'm sure it's like, and I think it'll continue to evolve. And with that, I do want to ask you, what do you think? Because you've been in this for a while now, leading change and impact. What are some key areas for all of us to focus on as a community? Because there is a lot of there are a lot of voices out there and there are a lot of things to be focusing on, but according to you, what are those key focus areas that is important right now let's say for the next, say, 5 years, for us as a community to focus on?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think some key areas is to honestly foster collaboration in this ecosystem,
Mm,
especially for sustainable social impact driven businesses. We're trying to basically change the way something has been done for like 30, 40 odd years, whether that is, through the mainstream fast moving consumer products or more. So whether you're in fashion and trying to build an ethical fashion brand, or you're trying to kind of bring in a refill model that hasn't existed for so long. I think what we really need right now is the art of conversation and the art of meaningful collaboration, and not just something that is for Instagram, but really on a deeper level is helping this ecosystem move this kind of mission forward. Because we know that the time is now. I mean, we are reading the IPCC reports. We know we don't have that much time left. We know that, the way we've been doing businesses has only kind of done benefit to one metric, which is profit, and kind of
mm,
really ignored the people metrics and the planet metrics. And so I think, whether that is setting up a cleanup in your community, or whether that's a beach cleanup or a city cleanup, and then kind of painting or revamping a certain area, whether that means, just fostering collaboration in the form of a fun clothes swap in your building. I think all of the ideas that we've ever actually, thought about, it's time to
mhm.
actualize them now. And as a community, I think we need collaboration more than ever now.
Yeah, I think you've put it so well. And I like that you say it has to go beyond social media and Instagram. And therefore, tell me, building and scaling bare necessities, what have been some key challenges for you?
Yeah, great question, Savita. And I think, listening to your podcast, you definitely interview a lot of people who have a business focus. Like I listened to Shalini's episode. I loved kind of the She the People episode. So I,
Yeah.
the focus that you have on, and your kind of your audience, who are kind of building sustainable businesses or just businesses in general, I think that's a really good and valuable question.
Thank
Um,
you.
I think for me, access to capital was huge. I grew up in a single mom house. I have two older sisters. I lost my dad in a really tragic accident when I was 8 years old, when I was crossing the road with him.
Oh
Um,
my God.
when
Okay.
I, moved back to Bangalore, and I kind of had this urge to start this business, I didn't have the comfort of kind of just diving in and starting. I kept my full time job for a really long time, for more than a year and a half, until I had some sort of cushion, some sort of money that I could kind of invest into my idea.
Mm,
And, coming back home, I definitely met a lot of entrepreneurs who had you know, the comfort of having their parents lend them some money to try out an idea.
mhm.
And I think I definitely did not have that. So I think, some of those challenges were really hard along the way, but no regrets, because I really think they helped build me, and they helped make me more resilient. I've done like, gosh, a couple of hundred odd failed pitches before actually, making the right pitches that ultimately led to investment, for example. Uh,
Yeah.
and the formula, that worked for me growing up, which was work really hard, you'll get a scholarship,
Yeah.
you'll do well, that just did not work in the funding ecosystem.
Mm,
And if I was a 24-year-old single female founder trying to pitch a business on circularity and sustainability, Bangalore is so kind of focused towards or partial towards tech startups for obvious kind of
yes.
scaling. Yes. But and also just the investing landscape, it was not open to kind of understanding circular business models, right? When they're asking you repeat rates and you're saying, hey, I'm trying to sell you one product so you don't need to buy a stainless steel straw ever again. Those kind of metrics just did not fit into regular investor speak.
Mm,
So for me, I think raising funds was a huge challenge. It also definitely kind of shook my self-esteem, because, you know, um, I went to school not very far away from where Shark Tank was shot in Los Angeles. I have
wow.
friends who've been on the show, pitched it. It's been fun. If nothing else, a little bit of few minutes of fame, or led to some collaborations, or just generally my cohort, my friends from Cambridge or LMU, being able to raise capital to start businesses with far more ease than I had it
Mm,
in 2015. And I think that was really, really hard because I just didn't know what was going wrong. And of course, now in hindsight, I'm able to kind of point out a few things. But at that time, it definitely just shook me as an individual and kind of shook my confidence a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I think I mean, what you're saying is going to resonate with every other female founder who is trying to raise funds at this time, because from where you were then, it may have improved by a few notches, but it's still, I mean, every woman still has some of these challenges, and it does impact your self-esteem, right? It is true, because you start to feel like, is it me? Is it the product? What am I not doing right? So thank you for sharing that, because that's something that a lot of people, uh, I mean, did you think, okay, I do want to ask, a lot of people don't share as vulnerably as you have, but did you think you would have done it if you'd known how hard it was going to be? Now, when you look back.
That's a really good question. Honestly, I would say that I had naivety on my side. I was, 24 or something, and I just dived right in. I had no idea what VAT was or GST was or anything. So maybe if I knew it was this hard, perhaps I would have never tried.
Yeah, but I think sometimes the unknown is great, because you don't know how challenging or how difficult it can be, and sometimes that can be a stopper, because no one wants to go in knowing, oh my god, this, like, that's going to be a smaller percentage. But now people feel have that can do spirit, and then you go in, and then, like everything else, there are going to be ups and downs. But moving on, what was the first product you created?
Yeah, so it started again with personal care products.
Hmm.
It started with creating kind of natural toothpaste because, the first thing we all do when we wake up in the morning is brush our teeth.
Yeah.
And how many of us can even name like, three ingredients found in our average toothpaste? How many of us know how many chemicals are actually in our toothpaste? And that magic number is actually 21 on an average, which is crazy to me. So I
Wow.
started really basic, really kind
I
of.
failed before you even started. I'm like, okay, what are these three? Scramble. Okay. 21. Okay. Wow.
So, the idea was to just create products that we use on a daily basis that are designed not to land up in our oceans and landfills, that
Hmm.
aren't packaged in plastic, aren't loaded with chemicals, to basically, create really conscious consumer products because there are 7 billion people of us, and all of us are arguably going to brush our teeth and shower. And the idea of us being clean in order to be clean, to kind of create this insane trash footprint just made no sense to me.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the premise in which Bare Necessities was started. And we kind of created fun little pop up markets or flea markets once a month um, on Saturdays and Sundays. And every month we would actually add one new product.
Okay.
And it was super fun. I felt like I was co-creating with my
Yeah.
first few customers. People would come back and say, "Hey, what do you have today? What do you have this month?" And they would give me feedback from, "Oh, that deodorant you sold me last month, I really like this, but I didn't quite like this."
Mm.
So we had young mothers who were kind of there, who were really knowledgeable about ingredients that are, in their traditional personal care products, or young kind of students and millennials who were just looking to start aligning their consumer choices with their values.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really interesting. And those few conversations with that first cohort of customers really helped us to kind of create, the first 10 odd products that we then kind of continue to create.
Like what you hear so far? Make sure you never miss a show by clicking the subscribe button now. Stay tuned as we take a quick break, and we'll see you on the other side of the show.
Okay, awesome. So you started with personal care, and it was a great, you answered my next question, which was, how did you find your first 100 customers? So you did the pop-ups, and because you continue to do it every month, the same customers kind of came back. So you actually found, let's say, product market fit on the ground, because you were talking to your customers, you're getting feedback, you're going back, making those changes that customers were telling you about. And from the pop-ups, what happened next? How did you transition into a fully online store? What was your
Yeah.
next milestone?
Yeah, definitely. So I think, that was just invaluable feedback because there are so many non-verbal cues when you're standing kind of across the table trying to sell someone a lip balm or a compostable bamboo toothbrush. And all of those things that will not be, articulated to you via just creating an online website. You'll never know,
Yeah.
right? So those non-verbal cues just teach you so much about, perhaps different hesitations people might have or questions people might have. So your learning is just kind of expedited. It's like learning on steroids at those pop-ups, with your first few customers. Um, and I think that was something that was really, really invaluable for me. And then after that, I had a store like this organic
Okay.
this organic grocery store
Yeah.
that was setting up, and they
Mm-hmm.
asked us if we would sell them in bulk and
Okay.
if we would white label for them. And for me, that was perfect. I had a full-time job in the solar and energy industry that I absolutely loved and adored. This was kind of a low-risk way of entering the market, validating all of my hypotheses about kind of repeat rates of customers. When will someone, go back to buy that detergent?
Mm.
Um, how much are people willing to pay for these products and stuff like that? So I would make all of these products in bulk, and I would kind of sell it to the organic grocery store that would then white label the products. And eventually I had enough capital to go ahead and kind of register my business, think about getting the trademarks in place and all of that.
Okay.
So that's how I got started with that, bulk store. So, which basically meant every time when I came back home from my job at like 6:30, I would just shower and I would be making products in my mom's kitchen.
Okay.
Weekends were delivery days. I would literally just load up my mom's car and go and deliver all of the products by myself. I was a one-person army for a really
Mm-hmm.
long time. And yeah, that was basically the beginning of how we start to create
the
customers.
the good old days. And yeah, hard, I mean, really hard, tough days, but fun times as well, I'm sure. And I do want to ask you this. I'm sure because it's a new product, and it's always like that when you do something disruptive, you have to kind of also create not just awareness but also educate. Did you find that you had to do that even with like, how do you say was the adoption rate when you took the product to market?
Yeah, definitely. That's a great question. We didn't have to just build products. You're totally right. We had to basically build awareness for the products. And
Mm-hmm.
I think, what we did in the early days through the form of these trash talks and workshops, just anyone who was willing to listen, really. So we've done talks and workshops at schools, at cafes, at yoga studios, at corporate offices. It was a way of kind of building awareness, creating a market for your products. And I think that was really crucial. And I think that's helped the entire ecosystem, even if that means that that person isn't going to purchase a Bare product, but going to buy another conscious product. I think that's also in a way helping this mission forward.
Yeah.
Because for me, really, the goal ultimately is for Bare to have impact and by virtue of basically not having plastic products land up in our oceans and landfills. And if that means
Mm.
that people who our workshops are making their own products, amazing, let it be.
Yeah.
So we're not at all, secretive about our ingredients and stuff. Everything is listed in a very, very transparent manner. In our talks and workshops, we in fact teach people how to make their own products in their own kitchen if they have the time and the energy to do so.
Yeah.
And the other thing that we do is we were doing these kind of talks and workshops for a really long time. But at the same time, it was not very scalable. I would
Mm.
have like World Environment Day, someone wanting me in Hyderabad, someone wanting me in Delhi, Kochi. And
Yeah.
obviously, it was impossible to do that. So we actually created an online course around sustainability.
Mm-hmm.
And, that would just make it easy and accessible for anyone else who was kind of looking to start a zero waste journey or a low impact journey, didn't know where to start. We have a bunch of DIY videos. We have experts who basically have been very pivotal in my own sustainability journey and have really influenced my own thought process, kind
Mm-hmm.
of roped them in. So everyone I really deeply love and respect is, in one or all of our courses. And we
Okay.
currently have 3 online courses around sustainability. And
Wow.
I've noticed
Okay.
that yeah, and I think that's been a great way to create awareness, to educate, to inform. And so many of the people who are in our courses are creating their own small sustainable businesses, whether that's in the clothing arena or, starting a green team within their own corporate office. So the response has just been so, so overwhelming and so beautiful.
Wonderful. I love that it is beyond just, it's about impact and it's about the why. The why is so large that you're saying you're transparent. We don't mind if people create their own products. We will teach you how. And we also have a course. So just take this course. I will be one of those course participants for sure. So I can get myself better educated. So I can do my bit for my planet. And with that, I do want to ask you, I may be putting you on the spot here, but overall, when you look back, would you say this has been a profitable venture when we look at it from the lens of running a pure business?
I think it's been so profitable on so many levels.
Mm,
Um, First one being the financial metrics,
yeah.
but two, in terms of just the impact it's created in terms of the women's lives who work in our manufacturing team. They're all
Mm,
local women who, maybe have finished fourth grade, maybe have not, learning English, learning computer skills, and I think I have created profit or value in their life. I think I've created profit and value in the value chains, the people that we source from, whether that is, cocoa butter from Mason and Co, another women love enterprise that creates chocolates in out of Orville. So
mm,
definitely, I think we've created value across the value chain, but on a pure economic level, per unit economic level, of course, we're also profitable. Before we raised funds as well, and now we're being a little experimental, and of course, the pandemic has changed a few things, so we do have a small burn, but
mm.
yeah, I think it's beyond even just the economic metrics that will show up on an Excel spreadsheet. I think we've been profitable on so many levels.
Wow, congratulations, because this is something that is also something that people need to hear, because people tend to think it's either, oh, it's a social cause, then maybe it's not going to be something that you do as a hobby. It's not something that can really be your bread and butter. So I'm so glad you shared that. And I'm very excited about what it can grow into, because I can really see this just becoming not just where it is right now, but what is possible for, in terms of your ability to reach billions of people and have them convert to using these products. And with that, I do want to bring the questions back to you. Just one more before we come to your life and what's your mantra. I want to know what would should be some factors, like one or two that you can name for a person if they want to embrace a sustainable lifestyle, because it's everybody is using this word, but what does it really mean? What are one or two things I can do? Is it one two is enough? It should be whole lifestyle change. What is your advice to start?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a really good question. I get that asked a lot. I think the answer is really start wherever you can and start whenever you can. And,
Mm,
the best time was 20 years ago, and the second best time is right here, right now. I love that Chinese proverb.
yeah.
And, you can do whatever fits your boat, whether you want to start composting your food waste, you can help divert 60% of your waste from ever entering the oceans and landfills by just composting. Or if you want to segregate, or you want to organize a tree planting session in your neighborhood. Perhaps you want to start carrying your own, tote bag to the grocery store. Maybe you want to start growing your own herbs.
Mm,
The idea is to just basically, for me, sustainability means it's a lifestyle, like anything else. It's a way of living. And it's basically an idea where you don't take more from this Mother Earth than you actually put back. So,
mm,
what are ways in which you are replenishing back this gorgeous Mama Earth? And what can you do to be just a little lighter on this planet? So, start wherever you can. It's all about the baby steps. So, yeah, get
yeah,
started.
beautifully put and heartwarming for someone like me who, sometimes we always think about the biggest things, but actually it's the little things that you can and should be doing. And yeah, so planting trees is definitely up my street, as is composting, as is all the other ideas that you've shared. And therefore, now when it comes to you, I want to ask you, when it came to personal change for yourself, because it always begins with you, and then, you see what you apply, you see the results of that, and that's usually how the best businesses are built. So when it came to personal change, where did you start with this journey? What was the changes that you made in your own life and lifestyle?
Yeah, definitely. So the first place that I tackled really was my personal care routine because, you know, in India, especially when you live a lot with your co-inhabitants, right? Whether that is your roommates, your parents, your loved ones, your partner, whatever. And you can't just, overnight bring in a new value system and kind of dictate that everyone moves a certain way,
Yeah.
right? So, but your personal care routine, which is everything you do in the bathroom, you have full control over, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
No one tells you which toothpaste to use, no one tells you kind of, no one interferes. So for me, that was the best and easiest place to start, and that's where I started. And I noticed by just kind of composting my food waste, by kind of changing all of the food vendors, or getting food as far as possible in kind of a package free manner, and switching up my personal care routine to a low impact one, I was basically able to kind of divert 80% of my waste right away.
Wow.
And that was kind of where I started. And for my mom, who is my co-inhabitant,
Mm.
I realized that for her it was perhaps not so much of a waste motivation, but when I started to get like this amazing, produce from Uti, from a farm, kind of delivered in this cardboard box every Tuesday, she just
Yeah.
fell in love with the produce of the food. She didn't care that it was in a cardboard box or it was, zero waste packaging or whatever, grown in a really sustainable way. She was just like, this is amazing. This is the quality of, vegetables and produce I used to have growing up in Belgaum.
Yeah.
So, and she's this, yoga guru, like has been practicing yoga for 30 odd years. So being also really kind and patient with your loved ones or your co-inhabitants and speaking to them in a metric or in a way that kind of resonates with them. And it doesn't have to be an environmental motivation for everyone. Maybe someone else will approach this from a health lens.
Yeah.
But ultimately, if your goal is the same, which is, or your idea is to basically try and transition to being just a little kinder to the planet,
Mm-hmm.
um, and that's the way to make it happen. Voila, do it.
Okay. I have a few more questions, so I'm going to go really fast right now because I'm loving the conversation so far. I actually have a lot of questions, but I know with the time, I'm going to try to keep it short. So, what do you wish you had more support with in this whole journey, right? From 2015 till now, which area do you wish you had more support?
Honestly, it would definitely be raising funds. It's an area
Mm,
that people don't speak about much. You can speak one on one with founders to understand about how they raise funds and how hard it is, or how many rejections they had to kind of rack up before they actually kind of closed one. Um, so I think for me, that was honestly a very, very difficult area,
yeah,
and continues to be a difficult area.
yeah,
And yeah, and I think that's something that I would love more support on, more than
sure.
just like a webinar format, like do this, do that, like
Yeah,
genuinely,
yeah,
like how the hell do I do this?
yeah.
um, I think that's an area that we could just as a startup ecosystem be a little bit more open on as well.
Yeah, I think great choice because that's really an area that a lot of founders struggle with. A day in your life, what does it look like?
Okay, so 6 to 10 a.m. I try and be like technology free, whether that
Mhm.
means, walk in Cabin Park, a spin class, football in the morning with my football girls. I try and be technology free for the morning.
Okay.
I love to meditate. I love making my own breakfast. So that means like a smoothie bowl, or, a moong dal dosa, listening to
Mhm.
my favorite podcast, which is How I Built This. Uh,
Yes, 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 mine too. Guy Raz is the best. Yeah.
So yeah, keeping my mornings really sacred. Um, a nice shower with a lovely playlist, and then I'm kind of ready to embrace and start my day. So yeah, that's how I start, and then it's just like back-to-back meetings, product development, team meetings, marketing ideas. It's just filled with lots of collaboration, lots of fun.
Okay. All right. And do you travel a lot as well for work? Pre-pandemic, of course.
Yeah, definitely. Pre-pandemic, I was traveling a lot, but honestly, I think I've been a little kinder to my to the planet and kind of reduced my carbon emissions and
Mm,
footprint by virtue of this year
okay.
and traveling less.
Yeah. My next question was what's a mantra you live by? But I think everything that you've shared so far covers that. So I do have one question that I was very curious about, which is you carry a 500-gram jar of waste. to your sustainability workshops, and that's the waste that you produce so far. How does that even, I mean, like, I just can't get my head around it.
Yeah. So
That's
well,
so
I
how do you
basically
achieve that? Like
definitely.
1, 2, 3 things. How do you achieve that? Composting, I'm sure, segregation, I'm sure,
Exactly.
um,
So compost,
recyclable.
get all of my food in kind of a recyclable format, a reusable format. So identifying vendors that are giving you food in, glass jars and things like that.
Mm.
Making my own personal care products, but also, of course, buying very mindfully from mindful businesses, such as Bears, etc. Growing my own, I grow, whatever little bit I can, whether that means herbs or fruit or avocado. And yeah, I don't shop a lot. I thrift. Um, basically try and avoid
Wow. Okay. I love all of that.
plastic.
Yeah. Amazing. I think when I saw it on your bio, I said, wow, this is hard. But now that I'm hearing you, I'm like, yeah, okay. It is possible. It can be done. So I think thank you for that, because you, at least in this interview, I have really got myself a faster education than if I had to just like pick up a book and read, or think about getting to it one day, the composting bit, which I've been sitting on. And finally, before I let you go, a piece of advice to entrepreneurs who are trying to build sustainable products and offerings, because a lot of businesses are there right now.
Yeah, definitely. I would say really push the needle
Mhm.
and be innovative. I think, don't just kind of follow the path that everyone's told you to do. Like, be bold in your vision of trying to, recreate whatever you're trying to create. And yeah, be very authentic to whoever, whatever brand you are building and your voice and brand as a company. It's so easy to kind of just like mimic or take off stuff off of other people's language on their website, or, a caption or a storyboard that they've done. But to really take the time to build an authentic brand from scratch that resonates with you. And the best time to do it is right now. So just like Nike says, just do it.
Yeah, yeah. Great advice. And Sahar, before I let you go, how can people join the course? How do people connect? Of course, I'll be dropping all the links, but what's the best way to connect and buy from Bare Necessities?
Yeah, fairnecessities.in is your one-stop shop. It's got the book, which is also available in all of the stores in India, also available on Amazon. And yeah, the course is Bare Learning. So your one-stop shop is fairnecessities.in. We're also super active on social media. So if you ever have a question about, there is some white fungus in my compost, what do I do? Just send us a picture on DMs and we'll help answer them.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you so much. So people have the book. If you don't want to read the book, but you still want to learn, there's the course. And then you can just can't put together the ingredients yourself, make your own stuff, just buy from Bare Necessities. And any questions, to just DM you on social media. I'm going to be dropping all the links below. And with that, Sahar, thank you so very much for your time today. I think it's been a very enlightening um, conversation so far. And for me personally, of course, I think half the time I do the podcast, mostly I'm like learning and I'm like talking to the guest. But I think what you shared today has a lot of value for our audience. So thank you for that. And thank you for being here today with us.
So much for having me, Savita. It was such a blast talking to you, and thank you for thinking of me.
Of course, all the time we are, sustainability is the future. So this is my way of making sure the word gets out there a little bit more. Thank you, and we'll be in touch. And all the best on this journey. It's I will be rooting for you. I'll be rooting for you. I'll be cheering you on, and I look forward to seeing Bare Necessities grow in their footprint across the globe.
Thank you for listening to the podcast. If you like this episode and you want more, you can go to the show notes on my website, which is successwithsavita.com/podcast. If you like what you've heard so far, I would be grateful to you if you could leave me a 5-star review, subscribe to this podcast, and share with a friend who may find this useful. You can also follow me on my Instagram at Success with Savita and DM me any questions you may have, and I will be happy to answer them for you. Until the next episode, believe in yourself and all the best to your success.
इस हब हॉपर ओरिजिनल को सुनने के लिए आपका शुक्रिया। अगर आप भी अपना पॉडकास्ट लॉन्च करना चाहते हैं तो हब हॉपर स्टूडियो वेबसाइट पे रजिस्टर करें और 1 मिनट के अंदर अंदर अपना खुद का पॉडकास्ट लॉन्च करें। यही नहीं, स्टूडियो देता है आपको पूरी आजादी कहीं भी कभी भी अपना पॉडकास्ट लॉन्च करने की, सिर्फ 3 आसान स्टेप्स में। तो साथ में अपना पॉडकास्ट शुरू करने के लिए तैयार? जस्ट हॉप ऑन हब हॉपर, सिंपली कंटेंट।